Must have a lot of money and treat me like a princess. My kids always come first. Plenty of fish. This part is always so funny to me because, like, you're doing the same thing. You're saying she's fat and ugly and how dare she have preferences. But, like, inside of that meme, you're demonstrating that you have preferences. Everyone has preferences, dude. What do you mean? It's not like a one-sided equation. Oh, I wanted to watch why so many young men are leaving the...
2008,
So many young men are leaving the Democrats for Republicans.
58% of young people lean Democratic. 2012, 53%. And in the last two major election years, that percentage held steady at 55%. But in 2023, that number dipped
No,
below
I haven't done the Klepper bit. I'm down to do it, though.
50% for the first time since 2005. And you'll notice right here, they've started to lean more Republican. And that's partly because of one specific group, young men. Young men have increased their support of the Republican Party from 35% to 48%, a 13 percentage point increase in just 7 years. And this is a new trend. While 2020 exit polls show that young men backed Biden by 15%.
We are literally the last political space online that is a holdout, that is majority men, that isn't like insanely politically. It's not even a joke. Straight up. All of that red pill content has created this like insane vacuum, dude. Andrew Tate, hustle culture, PUA, all this red pill manosphere. It's really up. Gender wars on TikTok don't help either.
Percentage points. A February 2024 Wall Street Journal poll found they favored Trump by 14 percentage points. And this loss of young male voters is a major issue for the Democratic Party going into November. The question now, can Kamala Harris bring some back? Here's what's driving young men to support Republicans and what it could mean for the presidential election to come.
America great again.
When we ask young voters, what issue is most important to you?
I'm not gonna lie, I also think men are getting dumber, and it's genuinely terrifying. Like, young men are so predisposed to like right-wing radicalization. We're getting dumber, bro. We are. Worse educational outcomes overall, like year over year. It's actually getting worse. Hasan speaking French. Bro, when I say we, I'm a man, okay? And at a certain point, I was a young man, okay? This isn't how I like was born into the planet. I don't know if you know this.
To cast a vote. Among young men, it's the economy. Among young women, it's abortion.
17% of men say the economy is the most important issue, followed by democracy and immigration. Whereas for young women, the top issue is abortion, by a lot.
Why is this happening? Well, we put the reasons into two different buckets.
By a lot.
Right.
Whereas for young women, important issue.
Abortion.
17% of men say the economy is the most important issue, followed by democracy and immigration. Whereas for young women, the top issue is abortion, by a lot.
Why is this happening? Well, we put the reasons into two different buckets. One is the life experiences that young men and young women are having. Those life experiences are diverging.
Young men without a college degree have seen the greatest decline in labor force participation.
Yeah, see, they're literally saying what I was talking about. Like, this is a major issue, okay? This is a major problem.
Meanwhile, a record 87% of college-educated women are in the workforce. And today, women make up 60% of college graduates.
This division that we're seeing between young men and young women, it goes beyond who they're going to vote for Congress or president. It goes to a range of policy issues. So then let's look at what the government is offering. The Biden administration has moved to forgive federally funded student loans. That affects young women more than young men.
During the 2019-2020 school year, 49% of female undergraduate students took out loans, compared to only 42% of male undergraduates. And 66% of all student debt is carried by women.
The young women favored forgiving.
Yeah, that's because they're going to school at higher rates. Like, that's it. Just showed the previous graph that literally tells you why 66% women taking the student loans. Because they're the ones who are actually going and pursuing higher education when men are not. The party differences have basically become firm on rural versus urban divide in terms of where people are. And the other divide is college education versus high school education, except for white people. White men specifically do buck that trend a little bit.
Student loans by 45 percentage points. The young men were about equally divided. I mean, that's a big difference.
Meanwhile, young men support extending Trump's tax cuts by 23 percentage points, which cut the corporate tax rate and reduced some individual income tax.
Dude, there's nothing funnier than being under the age of 35. There's nothing funnier than being under the age of 35, being like, I worry about the economy, and then advocating for tax cuts for corporations at the top marginal tax rate. It's like, dude, you are so stupid, dude. You are like, what are you? You are the biggest, most gullible moron on the planet. They are running your pockets, dumbass. They are running your pockets. What are you saying? Like, you think that helps you, dude? You think that that touches you? The only capital you own is a busted ass Honda Civic that your older brother handed down to you. You can't even avoid the top of the hour ad breaks. You ain't got $6 in your pocket to subscribe.
And now, because of our tax cuts, you can keep more of your hard-earned money.
You're at the Democrat.
But women oppose the proposed extension by 20 percentage points, a full 43-point difference.
That's data that goes
Like, extending Trump's tax cuts is so funny. You get $5 in your pocket, and all of the tax cuts that were made permanent are for corporations at the top marginal tax rate, you know? I mean, motherfuckers are like advocating for their own demise.
like this. Young men headed in one direction and young women in the other. That's a big difference. Data does not usually segment young voters that remarkably. This is something new.
Which brings us back to this chart. 22% of young female voters say abortion is their #1 issue in this election, a key aspect of Harris's campaign.
We trust women to make decisions about their own body.
Only 3% of young male voters said the same. And young men and women stacked up differently on other issues as well. With immigration, Trump's policies are much more likely to be supported by men than women. Men support deploying troops at the border by 10 percentage points, whereas women oppose this policy by 15 points.
Bro, who do you think is gonna get deployed? Oh my God, these people are so... This is what I mean, dog. This is what I mean. 18 to 29, net share in support is 10% for deploying troops in support of Trump's border policies. Like, build the wall, by the way, is unpopular among young men. Detain and deport is unpopular among young men, but they want to deploy troops. By the way, build the wall is so unpopular that, like, again, like, detain and deport is unpopular, build the wall is unpopular. This goes back to the point that I was making. You just have to remember that. Like, across the board, for everyone under the age of 18 to 29, both building the wall and detaining and deporting are unpopular. Much more unpopular for women, but still unpopular for men as well. Just remember that. Real cool that the Democratic Party is going on at least one of those, where with the right-wing border wall bill that they're presenting as though it's bipartisan.
And when it comes to building the wall, one of Trump's key immigration policies.
Look at Israelis, bro. There are some sick, violent young people just waiting for the state approval to do violence. Bro, come on. Israel's different. Like, America's pretty fascist too, but like, Israel is mainlining fascism in like Nazi Germany style ways. Yes, you're right. A lot of the most right-wing Israelis are literally young people, but that's because the Haredi population is basically very young because they keep popping babies out. Like, a lot of the Orthodox youth are those who comprise this incredibly reactionary base of support for the likes of Itamar Ben-Gvir and
Men are only slightly leaning towards opposition, but women overwhelmingly oppose it. These gaps are hard to explain just by differences in lived experience. Which brings us to the second thing that explains the gap between young men and women.
What are the candidates and what are the parties saying to young voters? Donald Trump and the Republican Party are putting out a lot of messages expressly intended to appeal to young men. Donald Trump has gone to Ultimate Fighting Championship matches. He recently appeared on the podcast of Logan Paul. He went to a sneaker convention to sell his own brand of sneakers.
We got to get young people out to vote.
These are audiences that are overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly filled with young men. And it's a way that Donald Trump and his campaign have been saying, hey, young men, I'm with you. I'm on the same page as you. I understand you.
Meanwhile,
a lot of the messaging from the Democratic Party has been towards issues that are more salient for women.
When I am President of the United States, I will sign into law
the protections for reproductive freedom.
So what does this mean for November? Young women historically vote at higher rates than young men. But experts say that with a tight election, the Democratic Party will need to draw in as many votes as possible. The next challenge for the Republican Party will be figuring out how to turn these young male supporters.
Kids are into Trump because of streamers and podcasts, not sneakers. No, I think kids are into Trump because they're not even directly into Trump, but they're getting beamed an unlimited amount of right-wing sentiment from all the podcasters and streamers, PUA space, all the stupid. I think that's what it is. They're coming of age under the Biden administration. Understandably, the culture war dictates that there is going to be a pendulum swing in the other direction, just like there was one under the Trump administration, where a lot of the youth, many of you, when you were young, were super libbed up, okay, and radicalizing during COVID. Now, many of you are no longer young. You grew up in that 4, 5, 6, 8 year time frame, okay? A lot of young men are developing this kind of sentiment. A lot of young men are just developing this kind of sentiment in the insane algorithms that they have, where every outlet, like whether it be financial advice, whether it be dating advice, whether it be fitness advice, every single one of those is primed. Like every single thing, every single type of like interest that young people have, young men have specifically, is like overtly and unimaginably right-wing. It's like dominated by right-wing forces. The irony, of course, is that like I'm interested in a lot of those things as well. And I present myself in the way that I do, but you know, I get belittled by a lot of like super insecure men on the red pill side who say I'm gay as though it's like a bad thing to be gay. But automatically, if you're like an insecure teenager, insecure about your own sexuality, you do think it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's not really much you could do. Barstool conservatism. Yeah. I do legitimately think, though, that the reason for why this is happening is because of Andrew Tate style content creators in general. Half of my male cousins in the 7th and 9th grade are very right-wing incels who watch Tate is so awful, and they're transphobic and racist, and their parents have no idea about what they do on the internet. Yeah. It's crazy. Like every aspect of Gen Z existence for men specifically is dominated by right-wing charlatans. Do we see a right-wing pendulum swing like this? Yeah, Gamergate. That's precisely what happened. Gamergate.
Into actual voters.
My 15-year-old nephew Andrew Tate hard. Please, I need advice on how to deal with him with the uncle-nephew bond. I think you just got to belittle those people. Like, not your nephew. I'm saying, like, the Andrew Tates and whatnot. Like, you just got to make fun of them for the clowns that they are, for the weirdos that they are. Because the biggest problem is those guys are obviously very insecure, right? And fixing this problem requires long-term commitment, which you can have as the uncle-nephew bond is irreplaceable, as you know. So it's not even about taking him away from the Andrew Tate style commentary channels or whatever. It's about actually getting him to develop confidence in himself, in and of itself. That's how you fix this issue. Because a lot of men, a lot of young men, myself included, like when I was young, I was insecure, you know? A lot of young men are genuinely insecure. They're also hormone-addled weirdos in general. And I think that in that space, when there's so much anxiety about your future prospects and you're like getting beamed gender war on TikTok nonstop, and that's your only form of content that you're enjoying, and every minute interest that you might have, from anime to working out to, you know, fashion, like or music, every single thing is like inundated with right-wing propaganda. You're inevitably going to start having those opinions. These guys prey on the vulnerable insecurity that a lot of young men have. I think this tweet shows a very old meme about how conservative culture is just woman hatred and insecurity. You can learn more about modern conservatism from this video than every op-ed conservative intellectual in the New York Times, Washington Post, National Review, and Atlantic combined. Illuminati bot, dark reality of modern marriage, disrupt the family unit to easily control the next generation. This has 2.9 million likes, bro. The romance is gone and doesn't give me enough attention. Yeah, girl, you deserve better. Facebook, you're so beautiful. I can't stop thinking about you. It's a black man. It's like This is like, of course, a white man has been here. Okay, this is a white man's meme. How do you know? Cuck porn. Okay. People in the comments said this is from 2012 and that it actually ends with, come on, let me come over for coffee while he's at work. Okay, but just for coffee and chat. How could you do this to me? He made me feel special. Divorce. He's having sex with her. Shit, they're gonna hate me. We miss daddy. It's your father's fault because he mistreated me and ignored me for years. Thank you everyone for your support. What an asshole. It's what? That you had to go through all that? I'll always be there for you. These are the white male feminists. Your dad is probably out there with a new girlfriend while I take care of you kids. Woof woof, time for bed, kids. And then she's white male feminist. I'm depressed and lonely. I don't know what to do. Try online dating. Don't even bother if you're shorter than 6'2" and don't have a hot body. Must have a lot of money and treat me like a princess. My kids always come first. Plenty of fish. This part is always so funny to me because like you're doing the same thing. Okay? You're saying she's fat and ugly and how dare she have preferences, but like inside of that meme, you're demonstrating that you have preferences. Okay? It's like everyone has preferences, dude. What do you mean? It's not like a one-sided equation. You are literally doing the preference thing in the meme by pointing to her and being like, she's fat and ugly. How dare she have preferences? This happened to me. I'm the stick figure infographic guy. Well, he himself in the end of this meme. Remember, kids, daddy loves you a lot. Whatever, dad. We know that you have a new girlfriend and don't have time for us. Why did you tell the kids that I have a new girlfriend and I didn't have time for them? Because it's probably true. And don't try to talk about me to them or you'll never get to see them again. Divorce court strikes again. What is this? Dudes out here crying about beauty standards like it's hard looking good as a dude. Thinking women care about height and muscles is so male gaze brain. Thank you everyone for your support on Facebook. What an asshole. It sucks that you had to go through that. I'll always be there for you. He's mad. He breaks his computer. No more. Oh, I guess he doesn't himself in the end of this. This is literally how Elon Musk formed his political opinions. Yeah, so this meme is obviously a very old meme, but that's why this attitude is precisely the reason why so many that the largest signifier that you are a likely Trump supporter or a likely Republican voter among every unique demographic group is if you are a divorced dad. Okay, it's not even a joke. They are literally like, yeah, their divorce court is a +9 Republican swing for men. Divorced men being 9 points higher in their support for Trump when compared to all other men is hilarious. All voters have a +7 swing. Divorce voters have a +56 swing. I mean, not +56, 56%. 9 points higher than like the average man. It is the highest likelihood that you will be. It is the highest likelihood that you will be a Trump voter. Not much higher than married voters. Still 6 points higher than married voters. Across all voters, 47% of all men say they are supporting Donald Trump. Across married voters is 50% of married men that say they're supporting Donald Trump. 56% of divorced men are saying they're supporting Donald Trump. That is a larger difference than anything else, okay?